Hello and welcome to Digital Nation, your weekly trip around the UK in the company of the local TV channels. In this week's show, we meet some spiky friends in the West Midlands. We visit an icon of aviation near Manchester. And brave the heights to give a statue a makeover in Hull. And you can contact us using the hashtag Digital Nation. Our first visit this week is to Oxfordshire, where messing about on the river is not only a well-known song, but also a favourite pastime. The city's waterways rely on lockkeepers to keep the boating traffic moving. It's a physical job that requires skill and stamina, but one woman has turned her hand to it with ease.
Lockkeepers are one of the oldest traditions of the waterways. They play an integral part in assisting boaters through the locks and helping maintain the area.
I used to own a narrowboat and I used to run up and down the towpaths, and about 10 years ago I saw a sign for an assistant and I applied for it and didn't have that much basic knowledge, but it's one of those jobs that you pick up and you get the knowledge. And yeah, I never thought I'd be a lockkeeper, but it's probably the best job I've ever had.
A popular attraction in Oxfordshire is being able to hire a boat and make your way down the Thames. And Katie is always here to give a helping hand.
So basically we've got a hire company just above us called The Boat, and they're all new when they come to the locks, so we ensure safe passage for them. We make sure they know how to get through the lock properly. We give them guidance on how to use their ropes, and just general information, where to moor and how to control the boat safely.
And it's not long before Katie is called upon to help out a passing boat.
Are you out on a party?
Are you sure you're not from You've Been Framed? Do you want to see our captain?
Here's the captain here, yeah.
And finally the team are on their way. But not without a final little helping hand from Katie. And there is one other member of the team who is essential to the smooth running of Benson Lock. Meet Reg, Katie's K9 companion, as no lockkeeper is complete without their trusty sidekick.
Over to Cardiff now, and it's a little known fact that in the 16th century people slept upright. So when you visit St Fagan's National History Museum, don't be surprised at the length of the bed. Made in Cardiff paid a visit to learn more about the darker side of the site.
It's a misty day here at St Fagan's. There's a chill in the air, which is kind of perfect. So what kind of things can we expect on this tour?
So the first thing we're going to go and have a look at is in this building here, and that is a deathbed somewhere where someone called James Price died.
Ooh.
The deathbed is where a man called James Price died on May the 4th, 1658. Now the bed itself is very short, and that's not because people were short in the past, it's because they slept upright. So they didn't sleep lying down. Yeah, they slept upright because they believed if you slept lying down that the angel of death would come down and believe that you had died. So they slept upright to make sure that they stayed alive. But unfortunately for James Price, that didn't work.
Didn't work this time.
No.
We're in front of St Tyler's Church now, which is the next stop on our Morbid Curiosities tour. How old is this church? What does it date back to?
It dates back to the early Tudor period.
Wow.
Yeah, so several hundred years old.
Mm-hmm. And what are we here to see?
We're here to see some of the paintings inside. So back then, the language of the church was Latin, but most people in the church wouldn't have spoken Latin, so they wouldn't understand what was going on. So what they did was they painted quite vivid and graphic images onto the walls to give people some of the stories from the Bible, but also some of the stories of what will happen to them if they sin, and also some of the stories of the saints, which can be quite morbid and quite gory. So up there you can see the image of hell on the right and the image of heaven on the left, and the hell is a monster's mouth, and he's eating the souls of people. So the small naked people there, they're actually the souls of people. So he's actually eating them.
To Bristol now. And when it comes to their health, men are not known for their love of visiting the doctor. But one man is speaking out about his cancer diagnosis to help others spot theirs early. When David was told he had cancer, it was particularly surprising, as a lump in his chest turned out to be breast cancer. Now he wants other men to know that it's not just a women's disease.
It was August last year. I was on holiday in Florida. I was in the shower and I discovered a fairly distinct lump in my right breast. Knew it shouldn't be there, so as soon as I got back, I went and saw my GP. She said it's probably just fatty tissue, which is very common in men of your age, but we'll get it checked anyway. And when I walked in the door, he said this is likely to be the mid-50s male problem. As soon as he did the ultrasound, however, it was very clear from the expression on his face that it wasn't that, and that was the start of the journey for male breast cancer for me. It isn't common. There's about 300 cases a year in the UK, but we do get breast cancer, and the worrying thing is that breast cancer in men the survival rate is lower because men do tend to ignore changes in their body and not go to the GP. So my message to men out there is that not only with breast cancer, if you have a pain, if you have a lump and it doesn't go away after a week or two, it needs to be checked.
Doctors are encouraging men to take the time to check themselves.
Examining yourself as a man is probably easier than a woman because of the fact that it's a very small area. So it's really simply a matter of examining underneath the nipple area and around the nipple and noticing any lumps there. And they're very simple to feel in men, and if there's any lump there at all, then you should report it to your doctor.
It may be a rare disease for men to develop, but checking your breasts, male or female, could potentially save your life.
To Glasgow now, where back in the 1800s there was a character around the west of Scotland nicknamed the Glasgow Glutton, whose ability to consume huge amounts of food and drink gained him such a reputation that people would place bets on how much he could devour. It was no surprise then when he inevitably succumbed to his famous abilities.
Some people live for football. Some people live for entertainment. Some people live for the weekends. But the character I'm going to tell you about today lived for one thing only. Well, actually two things: food and drink. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Rab Hoare, the Glasgow Glutton. No one really knows exactly where Rab Hoare originally came from, but it's believed that he was kicked out of home by his mother because he simply had an appetite that she could not afford to feed. So Rab began a life of a traveller. He travelled the west of Scotland, visiting every hunt, fair and chase, and he went to these events simply to eat and drink. Very quickly, people discovered that Rab had an incredible capacity for food, and so people started to place bets on the amount that Rab could eat. Rab was last seen on November the 22nd, 1843, staggering up Stockwell Street, rather merry with the drink. He was on his way home to his hayloft here in Hutchison Town, and he was found in that very hayloft the following morning, dead. He died of overeating.
If you've ever experienced a fly past by a Vulcan bomber, you'll understand the emotions expressed in our next piece. Originally built as a frontline long-range bomber, the swept-wing design made it an icon of aviation. The few surviving aircraft have been preserved in museums, and that's Manchester visited one, which has recently been restored to its former glory.
A piece of history, lovingly restored to its former glory. The iconic Vulcan bomber, once described as the backbone of Britain's nuclear deterrent during the Cold War, is back on display.
The Vulcan was part of what we call the V bomber force, because if you remember, you won't remember, but in the Cold War, we had to have a nuclear deterrent against the Soviet Union. So the Vulcan was the main part of the striking force.
I believe there are only two really great icons of British aviation. One was the Concorde and one was the Vulcan.
A team of volunteers have spent the last 4 months painstakingly polishing it up. Now the aircraft is back to its original design.
The guys who did it, we had about 40 guys working on it, painting it. Not all at the same time, of course, but they were out in all weathers. Either it was hot sometimes, and of course last week it was raining and blowing cold. I mean, they were coming in blue with cold.
We always used to see this at the air shows because we'd walk around it, and it's as long as I can remember, it's always been in a sorry state. You know, it's always been a bit green and looked a bit of a mess. So when you found out you could restore it, I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that.
I've loved doing this. You know, it's been a terrific experience.
Tony Blackman was the first person to ever fly a Vulcan plane.
Last time I saw it, it was very, very, very dirty, and now it really is a wonderful tribute to the people who did it. And it's lovely to think the aircraft's been preserved after all these years.
After more than 3,000 hours of work, this piece of British history is back in the public eye as the centrepiece here at the Avro Heritage Museum. The museum only opened last year, but they've already had 10,000 people through the doors.
It's restored on how it was when it left the factory here in 1963. It's absolutely wonderful.
The sky's the limit for the museum now. Already plans are in place for future restoration projects, but for now they're flying high after the Vulcan's grand unveiling.
That brings us to the end of the first half of the show and time for our quiz. In 1215, which King of England signed the Magna Carta at Runnymede on the River Thames? Was it A, King Richard, B, King Henry, or C, King John? Break out those history books and we'll give you the answer after the break. Welcome back to Digital Nation. Before the break, we asked you, in 1215, which King of England signed the Magna Carta at Runnymede on the River Thames? And the answer is C, King John. Magna Carta still forms an important symbol of liberty today and is held in great respect by the British and American legal communities. Now you'll need a head for heights for our next piece, where over in Hull a famous statue is receiving a gold leaf gilding on its scroll. A leading light in the abolition of the slave trade, the 31-metre high William Wilberforce monument dates back to the 1800s and serves as a reminder of his achievements.
What we're actually doing is we're applying a 23.5 carat gold leaf to the actual scroll. So yeah, quite a high one.
Gifty Burrows is the chair of the William Wilberforce Monuments Fund, who have raised £5,000 to do the work. She says the scroll itself represents the act of abolition, which Wilberforce was such a key part in, but believes more could be done to make sure his story lives on in the city.
It's important that people remember that story, and I think sometimes it gets lost in the history. People will argue that there's some input in schools. We don't think there is enough input, and it is still something that goes on today. So it makes it so much more important that that's kept into people's consciousness.
The statue has been in situ outside the college since the 1930s, having been moved from the top of Whitefrigate, where it had previously stood since it was built in 1834. It's hoped the work done over the last few days will be preserved for another 100 years.
Now for a prickly tale from the West Midlands. Recent surveys have shown that the hedgehog population has been in decline, with urban development a major factor reducing the freedom of the animals to roam and hibernate safely. Local initiatives organised by the Wildlife Trust are helping raise awareness of their plight.
For many people across the region, this used to be a fairly common sight. But as a result of urbanisation and human impact, the number of hedgehogs in the country has fallen to below 1 million. That's a decline of around 30% in just 10 years.
In a rescue hedgehog place nearby, they've got 400 hedgehogs this year alone already. And you get a particular rise at this time of year in autumn because the females may have had hoglets quite recently, people sweeping up leaf piles and trying to tidy up. And that fortunately means they get disturbed. Additionally, they're trying to fatten up to hibernate right now, and if they can't find enough food, they don't get to hibernate, so they might be seen wandering around in the daytime, and that's when it causes a bit of a cause of concern.
In an attempt to help protect the number of hedgehogs in the Midlands, the Wildlife Trust are working with a number of organisations to help raise awareness. The Homes for Hedgehogs scheme is just one of many things they are doing and aims to help educate children as well as providing custom-built homes for hedgehogs to hibernate safely in over the winter.
They'll be shown how to make homes for hedgehogs, how to make sure hedgehogs have plenty of food in the area, how to track for hedgehogs to see if they are actually around in their garden.
With the species in serious decline, the Trust feel that something needs to be done to help protect the common hedgehog. But why is it so important?
They're really important because they are a really iconic animal. Like I say, they're the only one we have. And as I said earlier, human impact is one of the reasons they are going into decline. So it's up to us to make sure we're looking after and protecting them.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Here's Creative Kingdom.
Where would the modern world be without the microphone? A lot quieter, that's for sure. But who invented it? Well, it's generally believed to be the idea of this man, David Edward Hughes, a professor of music from Corwen in Wales. After being credited as the inventor of an early version of the teleprinter, he became very interested in the burgeoning science of telephone technology, the transmitters in particular. And then, in 1878, after experimenting with a battery, 3 nails, a mouthpiece, and a galvanometer, he discovered a whole new way to bring the noise! American inventor Thomas Edison may have been the one who patented the invention, but it was Mr. Hughes who gets the credit. Sorry, old chap. Proof once again that when it comes to creativity, innovation, and pumping up the volume, in Cohen Mint!
Art is often used to raise serious issues, and in Belfast, the irresponsible use of high-powered laser pens has prompted a theatre company to take to the stage. In some instances, the pens have been shone into the cockpits of planes taking off and landing. In response, the local airport commissioned a theatre group to write a play exploring the true dangers of this thoughtless act.
Okay, Kelly, that's enough. Can you stop now, please? This isn't funny anymore. Kelly!
The play is called Leahs Are Lunacy, with the Kibosh Theatre Company and commissioned by the airport, and it's to raise awareness to young people about the dangers of using laser pens from the ground to aircrafts in the sky that are coming into the airport or taking off from the airport.
Many of them are manufactured overseas. They're very powerful. If you look at a ring laser that you may have on your key ring, that's probably 1 milliwatt. Some of these are 500 milliwatts. These can be shone into a cockpit. The effect that produces is often to temporarily blind the pilots. It can distract them, particularly at a time if they're relatively low and they're in a landing configuration.
It's tempting to kind of come in and really frighten them with something really scary, but I think you need to make them laugh, pull them in, and so then it gets quite serious and the kids all get quite, oh gosh, you know, this is serious now.
Give me the laser then.
Right. A lot of the children will have been on foreign holidays or have friends that have been on foreign holidays and will quite openly say, you know, oh, we got this for €2 at a market here, or somebody brought me this back as a present, isn't this cool? And they really don't realise the information on them might not be correct. They don't know that they could burn something with them. They don't know they could blind someone. They really don't think any further. So hopefully today has helped them to kind of think on their actions and make positive decisions, which is really what we're all about.
The migrant camps in Calais have attracted attention from across the world, and the recent destruction of the area known as the jungle highlighted the many volunteers who worked within them. Brighton's latest TV followed some of them running a kitchen that have been providing food for 2,000 people every day.
Today we're at La Berge des Migrants, the largest aid distributor in Calais, talking to Anna, the kitchen's organiser.
I came for about 10 days in February and thought that'd be that, you know, just do my bit. And I didn't want to leave because I'm cross about the situation and I'm cross about the lack of response from the UK officially.
Do you feel like you're making a large impact? Are you making a difference?
Definitely. I mean, being able to feed people is fundamental. It's just a fact that people need feeding. Full bellies are better than empty ones. We've got about 15 long-term volunteers here at Refugee Community Kitchen, and there are about 120 long-term volunteers across the whole site.
I've done 4,600 in the last 40 minutes. We've literally just been on the job for about an hour. And,
you regretting it or not?
No, loving it, mate.
We have enough to do what we're doing at this moment, which is feeding more than 2,500 people per day, but that's only because we have consistent support.
With the camp about to be closed, what's next for the volunteer-led kitchen?
So we will keep feeding anybody that needs to be fed. We also cook for Dunkirk, so 3 times a week we send hot food into that, and that camp is staying. That camp is a government sanctioned camp. So we're going to be here in whatever form that needs to be.
Over to Lancashire now, and every year when winter comes around, flu rears its ugly head, and it's a serious threat to the young, elderly and vulnerable. So, a hospital in Blackpool has come up with a novel way to make everyone aware of the importance of receiving the flu jab, and a chance for some staff to show off their acting skills.
Blackpool is famed for its glitz and glamour, but it's probably not what you'd expect from a hospital campaign.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never have that jab put in my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how the flu is wrong, and I grew strong. To Aki Health I run along.
I don't know, we wanted to do something that was kind of reflected Blackpool, so we wanted it to be quite showbiz, something a bit different.
And different it certainly is. The latest in a stream of campaigns from Blackpool Victoria Hospital is attention-grabbing to say the least. The parody music video sees Blackpool Victoria staff dressing in drag and using the hospital as their stage.
It was really exciting. We've done them year on year, and we always aim to try and get that little bit better all the time. And we said, yeah, we'll give it a go.
I Will Survive, it's kind of like a disco classic, and it just seemed to be that we could change the words around to match the message.
And the message, despite the humour, is a serious one.
The flu jab is really, really important. This year we see different strains of influenza coming into organisations which affect patients. They then infect our staff. That then goes on to take home to families, so lots of people can get ill from influenza.
The staff here are leading by example, fighting the flu with inoculation and encouraging viewers to do the same.
I think there's a lot of myths going around influenza jabs, and people tend to worry and think that they'll get flu from the jab. These vaccines are dormant vaccines, so there's no risk of actually causing flu.
So far, the video has had over 4,000 views, but staff are hoping the hits will keep on rolling in. Has it had an impact on people? Have they come forward, and have you seen an increase from the video?
Absolutely, it's been amazing from the staff so far. The staff, we've been in the dining room, we've been vaccinating people. People have been far proactive into getting the jab this year, which has been brilliant.
How are you going to top it next year?
Absolutely no idea. We're thinking about it now because obviously we've got to kind of make it bigger and better next year, so no idea yet.
And that's it from Digital Nation for this week. Don't forget, you can watch previous episodes of the show by going to bbc.co.uk/digitalnation. And why not check out your own local TV channel's website? So, until next time, goodbye.